I think I'm in frame. Hi, this is Savage Fabrication. We mainly do turbochargers now. I got the opportunity to do some 6.4 turbos. Sadly, they are shot, so the rear piston ring seal, the land where the piston ring goes into, which compresses the piston ring down to its properly installed height, has been worn out. Now, these turbos are from 2008 to 2010. It's a modern turbocharger. I was excited to take them apart because I like to see what's inside modern systems. New bearing setups, new thrust ideas. I've seen some cool stuff in older units, seen cool stuff in newer units, seen really dumb stuff all over the place. This kind of takes the cake. This is a 2008 to 2010 turbocharger using parts from a turbocharger that was designed in the 80s, 80s and 90s. It has K31 parts in it, and the small guy has S200 parts. Let's take a look. All right, so we're looking at this is the small turbo, which is S200 based, and then the large turbo is over on the ground. They're junked. So this rear land right here, it's worn too far. So the only way to fix that would be to weld it and then machine it. These turbos aren't that expensive to get replacement parts for, so the cost to do that outweighs the cost of just getting replacement parts. Okay, to my massive surprise, taking this thing apart, when I took out the front thrust, upper thrust, it looked like a K31, but I wouldn't put it past Ford to do something like this. The issue with these guys is they can travel too far. When the thrust starts to wear, there's not a lot of clearance between this guy and the oil retainer. So what'll happen is it'll start to rub against the back of the retainer, which this one is doing. Then we got to the thrust. Oops, didn't help me keep the chair. I took one look at this thing and knew exactly what it was. This is a K31 thrust bearing with just a few alignment dial changes. You might not believe me. This is 2008 to 2010. This is modern turbocharger technology. Here's the thrust out of an original K31. You would think they would do something new, or at least put an S400 thrust in it. I mean, the K31's known to have thrust issues. Its wheel set's too large for the thrust surface area. As you can see, this is an OEM 6.4, no tuner, no nothing. These would normally come on semis. They stopped using them on semis. Actually, what Ford did is the newer K31s, or re-K31s, use a full 360-degree thrust, which solved the issue. The issue with these is these surfaces there's not enough here. It's a big bearing for heat dissipation, but total area is low. So total low area, as you can see, we have scuffing and scuffing. If the thrust wasn't enough, here's a journal. So the difference is the K31 from way back in the day used snap rings to hold the bearings in place. This one, that's a modern K31. It's like a BV70. They should have just called it a K31. It's a little bit longer, or a K32. So they should have done that way. We order the right parts when we fix it. Or a K31 and a half if there is a K32. But I think they're similar. And what happened with this one, this isn't the bearing. The rear one stopped spinning, and when they stop spinning, they don't create a proper oil film, and it's probably pretty hard to see. There it is. But when these stop spinning, or at least don't spin at the rate that they're supposed to, the oil film goes away, and you can see where the shaft started to eat its way down. And it doesn't take much for a loss in clearance in this bearing to get to the point where you have contact of the turbine's piston ring seal outer land area with the center cartridge. And once you knock out the rear of the center cartridge, it's done. I mean, it's fixable, but unless there's something special about it where they don't make this anymore, not worth fixing. Cool thing with the S200 is the S200 is using some massive journal bearings, but the problem with that is the Audi is huge, but the ID is tiny. So it's stepped. I probably should clean these up better, but it's stepped, and the actual surface area for the shaft to ride on inside the bearing is quite small. I don't think it's probably actually smaller than. Oh, it's about the same. Here's an S200. Here's out of the small turbo in the 6.4. Considerably wider. This has a lot of taper on it. The extra material is there to help pull heat out and to not overheat and overgrow. But total area is about the same. You would think for the displacement of this engine, they would be running S300 base, S400 base, and then drop the wheel sets down. The bearings are not going to cause some ridiculous, insane emissions issues or anything like that. So here's a brand new S200 thrust bearing. Here's the thrust bearing out of the small turbo in the 6.4. Given the S200 is an old turbo but is still in production today, as far as not much has really changed about it. A solid unit. I'm just surprised that they would use an S200 thrust surface for something that has a displacement of 6.4 liters, and on top of that is dealing with added pressures on both sides of the turbine and the compressor wheel. So I thought that was funny. You guys might as well. Sorry for the messy table deconstruction of these things. They're always dirty, nasty. Stuff gets everywhere. I just thought it was hilarious that there's these fairly archaic parts in these. The S200, not so much. Obviously, it's a good unit. Just surprised to use such a small thrust system on such a large displacement engine. The K31 surprised the heck out of me. I was not expecting to see these ancient parts in this. A lot of these, they'll retrofit to a... Actually, is there a crack in here? Yeah, it actually looks like it has stress cracked. Right next to the thrust pad. Hard to see. See this up here? It's usually from heat or shock. These things don't take getting hit very well. They do well at grabbing debris and holding the debris. They don't like getting whacked. They crack fairly easily. But thought that was funny, just to see really old parts in something that's this new. So hope you all enjoyed. Thank you. Bye.